Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation is once again directed by Genndy Tartakovsky, one of my favorite animation directors, and he's directed the previous two, and this time, for the first time in the series, he's actually taken part in a screenwriting credit. And this film follows a very lonely Dracula who's beginning to feel like he would like a partner. Mavis, his daughter, feels bad for him, and so she invites him on this surprise cruise with all of her monster family. So we leave Hotel Transylvania and go out onto the water, and we experience their adventure as they meet some people who maybe want to do them in for good. This is a strange series for me because I've enjoyed both of the previous entries, while critics have been kind of lukewarm on them. This is a series that people seem to enjoy a lot more than critics, and I'm not exactly sure why. Genndy Tartakovsky is someone who has made some of my favorite animations. He just completed season 5 of Samurai Jack, which I thought was masterful. He's a brilliant animation director. I love his timing, I love his editing. The Clone Wars Micro series was fantastic. Dexter's Laboratory, I've always appreciated his work. And with the Hotel Transylvania films, I feel like they find a really good medium with entertaining children and adults while also having a lot of smart humor thrown in. And while Summer Vacation isn't as good as the first film, I found it about on par with the second in regards to its entertainment value. It's filled with visual inventiveness and a lot of creative character designs. It has good jokes, it has some actual funny sequences, and tons of adult humor. Just like the previous two, there's a lot of jokes that your kids are not going to understand. There's a tentacle joke. I mean, for God's sakes. This film has even more adult humor than the last, which I really appreciated because if you're going to take your kids to a film like this, you might as well have a few things that you can just kind of keep in the recesses of your brain, and then you know, one day, maybe little Johnny, he'll get that, but for now, that's just for you. This film and the previous two before it feel different than your average animation nowadays, like say from Pixar. Incredibles 2 feels like a film, it feels like an experience. The Hotel Transylvania movies feel like cartoons. And I mean that as a positive. And this very well could be because of Tartakovsky's background with Cartoon Network. These movies feel like entertainment. That doesn't make you feel like an idiot. You can enjoy the characters, you can have fun laughing at their situations, but in particular, it's the character design and the visual creativeness with every single monster. No two are the same. The whole film has a lot of great sight gags as a result because it's able to use these monsters and their different abilities to get a lot of good jokes. An early sequence on a gremlin airline where it's an airplane run by a bunch of gremlins that don't care about you. They'll take your luggage, throw it out the window. It's like the most uncomfortable plane ever, but it's cheap and it's for monsters only. There's a lot of great moments like that do have a bit of a hidden message in there, because just like the other two, the underlying moral of the film is that humans and monsters can coexist. You're allowed to look at someone else who might be different than you and appreciate them for who they are, despite those differences on surface level. And that's something that kids are going to appreciate and take away from and hopefully apply to their own life. Summer Vacation isn't going to go down as an animation classic, nor will the first two, but this series is a fun enough cartoon that adults can find a lot of enjoyment in, as well as kids, because there's tons of jokes that only adults are going to appreciate, as I said. There's two characters, the two werewolves, who have their children constantly on them, clawing at their skin. They never get any free time, and when they find a daycare on the ship, the werewolf is like, "You'll take our kids by choice?" And a lot of parents in the audience laughed at that, and the kids were just kind of like silent, but that's a joke entirely for the parents, and there's tons of stuff like that in this movie. As far as storytelling beats, it's going to be very obvious from the beginning. If you've ever seen any movie ever, you pretty much can understand where all the domino pieces are going to topple and where characters will make choices and things that are going to happen. There's no surprises, really. It is different than the other two because it takes place on a cruise ship, and so you have a new environment with new things that you can do, and so it does feel sort of like its own thing compared to the others. It's not quite as funny, it's not quite as fresh as the first one, but it is more fast-paced, I would say, than the second, because it does kind of feel like a series of jokes, and that could also be a negative, because sometimes you get a lot of jokes and you laugh a lot and it's chuckle-worthy, but where's the story going? And you understand that at its core, it's really just about Dracula being lonely and his family wanting to help him, but there isn't that much under the surface, and that's fine. I don't think that every animated film has to be mind-blowingly deep. Some are just meant to teach kids a lesson while also entertaining them. And while critics will likely jump on the fact that the film has a big finale involving dancing and music, this movie goes for it. It really puts everything out there and just kind of blows up with this crazy sequence that in the end kind of won me over. At first I was like, are they really doing this? All right, they are. I guess they're going for it. And I heard a lot of children around me laughing and having a good time. And that's the divide, I think, right there between critics who go to this film and they want to express whether or not they were entertained by it, but in the long run, it really is made for families. And I feel like families will enjoy this movie. And if you like the first two, you'll probably find enjoyment in it as well, just like my wife and I did today. I'm going to give Hotel Transylvania 3 a B. Also, side point, there's something that animations do commonly when someone gets beat the hell up, like their wounds disappear seconds later because it's a cartoon. There's a scene in this where Dracula gets like 100 arrows in his body, an axe in his head, snakes are biting his arms. And I kept waiting for them to disappear, but they remained on him for the entirety of the rest of the scene. And it got so hilarious that they weren't going away. And I was like, Tartakovsky is playing with animation tropes right now. And I don't feel like a lot of people are going to appreciate that. That's something that he does so differently than your average animation director that you just forget about in 2 seconds. And I appreciate that about him as a filmmaker. I want to see more from him. I hope to see more films from him. If you guys haven't seen Samurai Jack, it's on Blu-ray now. Please check it out. It's one of the best cartoons ever made. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.